So, Paul, let's start with you. You're a third-generation tenant farmer, as I understand it.
That's correct.
But you're also heading up an organization of farmers. So you're not just tilling the soil; you're also out there spreading a message, as it were, and advocating for farmers. Am I right?
Yeah. Now I'm involved with an organization called Global Farming Network, which advocates the use of science and technology and trade across agriculture.
What is your perspective on ag tech? I was saying this yesterday, and I got some pushback, but I spent a long career at The Economist, and in that time, among other things, I got to know Norman Borlaug, the father of the Green Revolution, of course, a wonderful testament to agricultural technology changing people's lives. But I've also met lots of farmers in developing countries, in particular on big farms in Kansas and Brazil, and in my experience, initially, farmers can be resistant to new technologies because one failed crop could be disaster, particularly for someone who's on the margins, a poorer farmer. And so you need to be able to prove the value of technology to farmers, and then they'll be very enthusiastic adopters. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I mean, technology, I've been fascinated with science all my life because I saw the improvements that, such as Borlaug started off with breeding. And it's taken our farming to a completely different level. But I've seen it applied across the world, and I've seen the difference it makes. But farmers are slow and conservative to change.
Right.
They need convincing, but usually when they see it with their eyes, they're pretty smart enough to pick it up.
So I'm glad my instinct is right on this. Now, and yet you remain an advocate of ag tech and some of the innovations. Tell us one or two areas that you think are most promising that can help farmers now that you're trying to persuade them to adopt.
Oh, well, without a shadow of a doubt, plant breeding, to my mind, is the biggest area that we need to be properly engaged in. We know that our plants can use more sunlight in ways to be more productive. It's just the genetics doesn't often allow them to. And I've seen over the years conventional breeding programs and how they've improved our wheat yields. I've seen how the adoption of modification has made rapid improvements across the world. But the new technology of gene editing is something that is genuinely really exciting.
So quite dramatic, isn't it? Maybe that's a good moment to come to you, Lindy. Can you tell us what is what's coming out of the laboratories and moving out into the field that can have a transformative potential for farmers? What are you working on?
Yeah, so I'd say that farmers are facing more challenges than they ever have done before. So 6 out of every 10 farmers have experienced crop losses due to extreme weather conditions. And 75% of farmers globally are concerned about climate change. So our responsibility as a science-based organization is to be a partner to them to enable to overcome these challenges that they're facing, these real challenges today. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through plant breeding. So traditional plant breeding, conventional plant breeding, relied very much on a plant breeder, an individual person who would select the parent varieties, put them in the field, do many iterations in order to get the best plant for the farmer. And that was often inaccurate because it didn't rely on data or necessarily science. It relied very much on that person and their ability to select the best plant. We've completely transformed the way that we breed plants now. So we do something called precision breeding that uses AI, so artificial intelligence, and data with genomics and environmental data to predict how the parent plants will perform. So it helps us to predict and select the best parents using science. We're also able to predict how the plants will perform on farm, so in farm conditions, under certain climate conditions. So we can model future climate scenarios and predict how the plants will perform. This also means that we are quicker. So this new precision breeding process that we're doing means that we can bring better hybrids, better plants to the farmer quicker, 15-fold quicker than we could in the past, which means that farmers get plants that are more resilient to disease, more resilient to drought, more able to withstand climate change and overcome the challenges that farmers are facing.
So just to clarify, the tools were already there, whether it's the breeding, which is age-old, genetics, maybe even looking into the data management. But what AI has done is really put things on hyperdrive. Is that right? It's allowed you to do more faster across a greater variety of potential outcomes, of weather outcomes and environmental outcomes. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, absolutely. So we're able to be quicker, faster, more accurate, and able to bring better plants to the farmers to withstand the challenges that they're facing today, particularly around climate resilience.
Can I ask you, what is your perspective on AI? Some people, we have attitudes all over the fence on this. Let me ask you what you think about AI.
If you could use it for positive advantage, and I think the data point is really important. Finding ways of improving and measuring things and then analyzing the data is really time consuming. And if AI can do that, then you'll gain benefit from it. And also, farmers are at the front face of the weather. We are seeing more frequent extremes. If AI, again, can provide data that helps us understand dealing with these extremes, then it's going to be a benefit. But I do know my job will not be replaced by AI.
Well, I think you may be the one of us in this room that can say that with great confidence, that the AI will not replace your job. I worry that a robot can do my job fairly soon, maybe better than I can, but yeah, you're safe. Is there any trepidation amongst you and fellow farmers that the pace of change?
Well, there's always trepidation because as a farmer, you spend your life engaged in your day-to-day work. And you very rarely have the time and the luxury that I have to sort of experience and speak to other people outside of the industry and across the world. Farmers, though, if they're given the opportunity, are pretty smart at picking stuff up. And, for example, the way that GPS has been used on tractors, smart, intelligent combines are in a different league.
Right.
It's never been a barrier to anybody that I've seen. When they see technology working, they will take it up.
Right. That's a very good point. I want to turn to questions. I see we have one immediately. Let's get a microphone here. While we're waiting on the mic, there's a question on Slido. I think it's really maybe directed to Baird, asking about how you make sure, if you're going to increase efficiency and yields, how do you make sure to protect the soil and de-risk over-extraction? Either of you want to answer it, really.
Genuinely, I mean, this is the number one challenge that you've got all the time. And it's why making sense of sustainability and the concept of regenerative agriculture is really important. It's a thought process. This is always the biggest challenge. We're mixed farmers, so we are looking at how we can use our livestock residues and recycle byproducts to best effect. But what we're doing now that we maybe weren't doing 20, 30 years ago is we are embracing biology alongside chemistry and physics.
Very good. Let's go to the front row. Please identify yourself.
I'm Isabel Devana from the Carbon Trust. This question to some extent preempted mine. And what I was going to ask is, are there unintended consequences to this precision breeding that you found in terms of sustainability, biodiversity, or anything?
I would say that the consequences are only positive. So precision breeding is only one element, but we talk about sustainability and regenerative ag. Farmers don't just think about one element of their system. They think about the seeds, but they're thinking about all the way to harvest and the rotation and sustainability and environmental factors. And we're part of that. So by having a precision breeding platform where we can produce plants that are more tolerant to disease, for example, we're making the system more sustainable for the farmer, because if the plant is more tolerant to disease, it's better able to withstand any disease incidences coming into that crop. That makes it more sustainable for the farmer. So we are part of a systems thinking, not just one element of that. It's very much about the whole system, the rotation, the soil health, the environmental factors, and we're there to support and help from a sustainability perspective.
Another question from the floor, let me know. In the meanwhile, I have a question. I had pressed our deputy mayor on the question of policies that may have unintended consequences that were disadvantaging those who are poorer. Is there a dimension to the new innovations and technologies that they're really meant for the mega farmers and the wealthier farmers who can afford to subsidize or pay for the business models, and poor farmers get left behind?
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, particularly with seeds. We have members in Africa, A lot of them are small producers. The technology lies in the seed. You can provide the same technology to a small farmer as you can to a large farmer.
So it's an equalizer in a way.
It's a real equalizer, yeah.
Interesting. And of course, there's a lot of concern about drought and other kinds of resistance, too much water, too little water. But those are presumably a particular advantage and help in the most vulnerable communities, most vulnerable parts of the world, like in Africa, which contribute at least to climate change, but now may be suffering some of the worst effects.
Absolutely. You know, you're preventing food waste at the very beginning by improving the genetics of a crop. So it makes the most use of the resources, particularly water. There was a great example I saw in Spain where they were using a modern breeding technique to produce maize. And it was grown alongside conventional varieties. There was a 30% difference in yield. The high-tech breeding had produced it. The critical thing was they'd use the same amount of water. 30% more yield, same amount of water.
Yeah.
That is really significant.
Yeah. Any question from the floor? There's a hand here, and then we'll go over to the corner in a minute. We'll start in the middle.
Thank you. Simon Goldsmith, the University of Greenwich. I think there's a question really about looking at technologies and particularly at the crops that are being kind of looked at. I suppose Bayer, as an example, are kind of looking at a lot of those kind of marketable crops, yet some of these subsistence crops, which are going to be affected by climate change, may not necessarily have the attention needed. I was kind of wondering really if that is being considered really in terms of the technologies and the application ultimately.
Yeah, so Bayer actually has a global breeding platform, and we're actually applying this technology across all of our crops, from vegetable crops to oilseed rape, to cotton, to corn. So it's not that we're just being selective about enabling the farmer through this technology to have improved plants, to improve their crop system. It's across all of the crops that we're employing this.
Hey, we have a hand there I saw in the corner.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mari. I work for a agricultural cooperative bank called Norin Chukin Bank, and we are from Japan. So this question is probably specific to Paul. So as probably many of you know, Japan has a population aging problem, and then the farmers are getting old. And then we are also, as a bank, we are also starting to think how to attract the young farmers. And I had an interesting conversation with Dutch farmers saying that next generation young farmers, they are not interested in doing the traditional farming, but so modernization and technology is important for young farmers. So what kind of initiatives are you doing with young farmers or attracting young farmers, maybe in...
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you the last of the farmers that we should hear from your family, or are we going to have more fourth generation, fifth generation coming along?
There's hope there's more, because I know that I am coming into what I call the last decade of usefulness. Demographics. I
passed that long ago.
Demographics is the biggest challenge we've got. As an industry, we maybe haven't been good enough at projecting how many different types of working opportunities and skill sets are required within agriculture. And technology and the use of it actually can make it really exciting as well. And we have a Japanese member who embraces YouTube and social media and creates songs. And in a way, what he's trying to do is show a positive and enthusiastic element to farming that most people don't think of as a traditional situation. Mm-hmm. But the industry really does have to embrace young people because they're in competition against all the other industries. I find it exciting because I know everybody in this room uses my products and will want to use my products. It's how we make that exciting to a next generation and then remunerate them will be our challenge.
That's a good set of tools to deploy, right, to try to get the younger generation involved. We do have a question. I think it might be directed to you, Lindy, or both of you, really. Is there a tension between organic farming approaches and plant breeding? How would you answer that?
I would say the plant breeding is completely compatible with organic farming and reducing resources, because plant breeding is about producing more resilient plants that are better able to withstand disease, pests, climate change, which means that we can reduce the resources that we're applying to that crop through utilizing plant breeding, innovation and technologies. Another good example would be we're breeding plants now that are more nutrient efficient, so they're better able to utilize the nutrients that are available to them, particularly nitrogen. When it can utilize nitrogen better, you can reduce the amount of nitrogen that you're applying to the crop. So you're then effectively reducing the inputs into that crop and producing a more sustainable crop for the future as well.
Any question? I see way in the back. I see a hand there. That might be the last question. Let's see how time goes.
Thank you both very much. Elias from the Center for Synchronous Leadership. What are your thoughts on the feasibility of vertical farming on scale?
Yeah, good question. Unexpected. Just vertical farming.
Just repeat
Yeah,
the question.
what's the feasibility of vertical farming?
Having little experience of it, I am not best placed to comment on it. It seems slightly alien to me that you're creating a situation that requires external energy when you've got the sun. However, if you can tap into renewable resource and it provides production where it's actually required, then it might be really useful.
You're open to the idea.
I have seen it in 2 or 3 facilities now under research. I find it fascinating. It's a bit of an alien concept to a farmer that likes to be outside. But you should never dismiss any of these things. What you have to do is carry out the research and then find out whether the energy out and water use efficiency actually works.
Right, right. What do you think, Lindy, about vertical farming?
I think one of the challenges...
Are you involved with any experiments?
We're not directly involved.
You're not directly involved.
Actually, our vegetable side of the business might be. I'm not directly involved in that, so we may well be doing some research and development in that space that I'm not aware of. But
any final question before we wind things up? If not, I'm going to ask each of you to make a prediction. If we were to meet here in 10 years, at the end of your useful decade, my friend, your last act, gift to the world will be to come on the Economist stage.
I think my wife thinks that was last decade.
Give your life's wisdom. What do you predict would have changed in the 10 years?
What I can predict is things are going to be less predictable. That's what I can predict. This time,
Very clever guy.
Time last year, genius that I was, I said the only reliable crop that I had was grass. Last year was my worst grass production year in my entire life. And what it neatly showed me is we are not in control of the environment I'm producing in. So it reinforces my need to concentrate on soil and how I regenerate and make sure it's sustainable. It reinforces the need for the genetics that I'm using both in crops, but also importantly in my livestock, to withstand the extremes. And my note of caution to people here in this audience is, if you want examples, look at cocoa, coffee, and beef, where the markets have run short, the price has gone up. It will take 4 years to correct the beef cycle.
Yeah. Lindy, any prediction from you, 10 years out?
I think 10 years out, it's fair to say that agriculture will look different. As I said, when I opened, farmers are facing more challenges than ever before, but I truly believe that AI, data, innovation can help farmers to overcome those challenges, which is obviously critical for all of us because we're producing food and we need to produce sustainable food to support the growing population. So I really see that AI technology will help to transform the farming sector, and that partners like the organization I work for will be working alongside farmers to support and enable them.
Well, great. Well, it's obviously an essential industry for the future of humanity. So
Absolutely.
It's good to see some of the enthusiasm and innovation from the AI sector that's being applied to lots of useless things that are probably bad for humanity might actually help such a vital industry to the future of our humanity. So give our innovators a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you. And
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
it's a pleasure.